The sob comes from the corner. 2 a.m., restricted rooftop. Someone who shouldn't be here. Thelma Locke looks up, tears streaming down her face. He told me I'm his property, that I'll never escape alive. June Sang's jaw tightens. Where is he now? Home, waiting for me. He pulls out his phone, dials. His voice drops ice cold. Not anymore. If you believe women deserve protection and respect, hit subscribe to Ebony and Pearl Stories right now. We're building a community that stands against abuse. Don't let the algorithm hide these stories. June Sang's eyes adjusted to the dim glow of the city lights. There, curled into the corner of the outdoor sofa, was a small figure trembling despite the warm June air. A woman, and she was crying like the world had ended. His entire body stilled. This space was restricted. No staff after midnight. No guests ever. Only one person in his organization had clearance to bring family here. Terrence Locke, his most trusted guard, the man who had taken bullets meant for him. Which meant, Thelma? His voice came out lower than he expected. The figure lifted her head and he froze. A black woman with tear-soaked eyes, tight curls damp against her cheeks, hoodie sleeves pulled over clenched fists. Her breath shook. Her whole body shook. The city glowed behind her, but her face was carved in pain. He had seen the toughest men on the peninsula beg for mercy. He had seen enemies break under pressure. But he had never, not once, seen Thelma Locke look afraid. She blinked through tears, her chest heaving. June sang, I didn't know where else to go. Those were the first words that cracked something inside him. He approached slowly, lowering himself to the edge of the sofa, careful not to crowd her. The tattoos on his chest caught the city lights, but his voice was soft, controlled. Thelma, tell me what happened. She looked away, shoulders trembling. He waited. He did not rush her. That alone told her how serious he knew this was. Finally, she whispered, it was Sherwoo. June Sang's jaw tightened. Kong Sherwoo, the man she'd been planning to marry. The man Terrence distrusted instantly. The man who hid cruelty behind charm and expensive watches. What did he do? June Sang asked. Thelma let out a humorless, shattered laugh. It's not what he did. It's what he said. Her hands clutched her knees tighter. He said marrying me meant owning me. A tear slipped down, that I needed to learn my place. Another tear, and that if I ever embarrassed him again. Her next breath shook hard. June Sang leaned forward. Thelma, look at me. She tried. Failed. Tried again. Her voice came out a whisper wrapped in terror she tried to outrun. He told me he'd make sure I never walk away alive. June Sang stilled. Completely. The wind moved. The city hummed. The lights flickered. But he didn't. Because this? Threatening Terrence Locke's sister? Terrence, the man who saved June Sang's life twice? The man who'd bled for him? Sherwoo hadn't just crossed a line. He detonated it. June Sang's voice lowered into something lethal. Did he hurt you? No, she whispered quickly. He didn't touch me, but he blocked the door. He yelled. He meant it, June Sang. He looked at me like I was. She swallowed hard. Something he owned. June Sang inhaled slowly through his nose, burning, boiling, but controlled because she was already drowning in fear, and he refused to add shockwaves to her storm. Where is Terrence? He asked. On night rotation. Her voice cracked. If he finds out what Sherwoo said, he'll kill him. He'll go to prison, and it'll be my fault. That was when her voice broke entirely, and June Sang finally understood what shattered him. She wasn't afraid for herself. She was afraid for her brother. For Terrence. For the consequences. For the chain reaction she feared she had triggered. He moved closer and rested a steady hand on her shoulder. Thelma Locke, he said quietly, none of this is your fault. She shook her head. I should have left earlier. I ignored things. I thought he'd change. Stop. His tone was gentle but firm. People like Sherwoo don't change. They just reveal themselves. She closed her eyes, tears spilling. Then, without looking at him, she whispered the sentence that destroyed him completely. I didn't go to the police because I knew they'd protect him, not me. June Sang's breath left him in one sharp exhale. Not because he was surprised, but because she said it like she had accepted it, like she believed her safety was optional, like she believed her life was negotiable. He had seen injustice. He had drowned in it, but hearing that resignation in her voice, Terrence's bright, stubborn sister, cut deeper than any bullet ever had. He sat back, looking at her long and hard. "Thelma," he said slowly, "do you know why you came here?" She wiped a tear with the back of her sleeve. "Because I didn't know where else to go." "No." His voice softened. "You came here because you knew I would protect you." Her eyes lifted. He held her gaze. "And I will," he said. "Tonight. Tomorrow. As long as it takes. Sherwoo will never get near you again." Fear flickered in her expression. June sang, "Promise me you won't hurt him." He exhaled. "I promise," he said, and meant it in the narrowest, truest sense. Because he wouldn't hurt him. But the world was full of men who owed him favors. Men who feared disappointing him. Men who would make sure Kong Sherwoo understood he had chosen the wrong woman to intimidate. He stood and offered her his hand. "You're staying here tonight," he said, "and tomorrow I'll talk to Terrence." She hesitated, then slid her hand into his, trusting him more than she trusted the world. As he led her inside, she whispered, "June sang, am I safe now?" He looked back at her with a certainty he rarely showed anyone. You were safe the moment you walked through that door. And he would prove that, even if it meant burning down half the city to do it. If you can't stand manipulators like Sherwoo who threaten and control women, hit subscribe and comment what time you're watching this. Let's build a community that refuses to stay silent when people abuse power. Only abusers and their enablers will scroll past this. June Sang's penthouse was a study in controlled luxury. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Seoul's glittering expanse, but the interior was surprisingly warm. Dark wood, soft lighting, leather furniture that whispered wealth without screaming it. He guided Thelma to a sofa in the living room, his hand steady on her shoulder. "Wait here," he said quietly. "I'm calling someone." She nodded, still trembling, pulling her knees back to her chest. He disappeared into another room, and she heard his voice, low and commanding, speaking rapid Korean. 5 minutes later, the private elevator chimed. A woman in her 50s stepped out, carrying a leather medical bag. She wore casual clothes, jeans, and a silk blouse, but moved with professional efficiency. Her eyes were kind but assessing. "This is Dr. Park," June Sang said. "She works exclusively for my organization. Nothing she sees or hears leaves this room." Dr. Park approached Thelma with a gentle smile. "May I examine you?" Thelma nodded, and for the next 15 minutes, Dr. Park asked questions in accented but clear English, checking her pulse, listening to her heart, examining her hands and neck for injuries. June Sang stood by the window, giving them space but never leaving the room. Finally, Dr. Park sat back. "No physical injuries, but your heart rate is elevated, your breathing is shallow, and you're showing classic signs of acute stress response. Panic-induced chest tightness, adrenaline shock." She squeezed Thelma's hand. "Your body has been through a trauma. You need rest, quiet, and absolutely zero stress. Do you understand?" "Yes," Thelma whispered. Dr. Park handed her a small bottle. "Mild sedative if you need it to sleep. Only one tonight." She looked at June Sang. "She needs to be monitored for the next 24 hours. No triggers, no confrontations." "Understood," June Sang said. After Dr. Park left, June Sang pulled out his phone. Thelma watched as his expression shifted, still controlled, but with an edge of steel she recognized. He was making a call he didn't want to make. "Terrence," he said, his voice leaving no room for argument. "I need you at my penthouse immediately. Your sister is here. She's safe, but you need to come now." He ended the call before Terrence could respond. "He's going to kill him," Thelma said, panic rising in her voice. June Sang he's going to... "I won't let that happen." 8 minutes later, Thelma counted every second. The elevator doors opened, and Terrence Locke burst into the penthouse like a hurricane. He was a big man, 6 feet 3 inches of muscle and controlled violence, with the same warm brown skin as his sister and eyes that could shift from gentle to lethal in a heartbeat. Right now, those eyes were wild with fear. "Thelma!" He crossed the room in 3 strides, dropping to his knees in front of her. His hands hovered over her face, afraid to touch, as if she might break. Baby girl, what happened? Are you hurt? Who? It was Sherwoo, Jun Sang said quietly. Terrence's entire body went rigid. His head turned slowly toward Jun Sang, and the expression on his face made Thelma's blood run cold. She had seen her brother angry before, but never like this. Never with murder written so clearly in his eyes. Where is he? Terrence's voice was barely above a whisper, but it carried the weight of an avalanche. Terrence, Thelma started. Where is he? Terrence roared, standing so fast he knocked over the coffee table. That piece of shit put his hands on my sister? I'm going to rip him apart. I'm going to make him wish he was never born. You're going to sit down. Jun Sang's voice cut through the rage like a blade. He stepped between Terrence and the door, and despite being 3 inches shorter, his presence filled the space. Right now. Get out of my way, Jun Sang. No. They stared at each other, 2 dangerous men on the edge of violence. But Jun Sang didn't flinch. If you go after him now, Jun Sang said quietly, you'll kill him. And then you'll go to prison. And Thelma will lose the only family she has left. Is that what you want? Terrence's chest heaved. He threatened to kill her. I know. He made her feel unsafe. I know. He's a dead man, Jun Sang. He just doesn't know it yet. Maybe. Jun Sang's voice softened slightly. But not tonight. Not by your hand. Not when your sister needs you here, alive and free. Terrence looked past him to Thelma, and his rage crumbled into something more painful, guilt. He sank back onto the sofa, putting his head in his hands. I should have seen it, he whispered. I told you something was wrong with him. I told you. Terrence, stop. Thelma's voice was stronger now. This isn't your fault. You're my sister. Protecting you is my job. It's always been my job. His voice broke. And I failed. You didn't fail me. Sherwoo fooled everyone. Even me. She reached for his hand. But I can't tell you everything he said because I know what you'll do. And I can't lose you. I can't. Jun Sang watched the siblings, then gently placed a hand on Terrence's shoulder. I need a moment alone with Thelma. Terrence looked up, eyes red. Boss. Trust me, Jun Sang said. I won't let anything happen to her. Ever. After a long moment, Terrence nodded and moved to the kitchen area, giving them space but staying close enough to see. Jun Sang sat beside Thelma, his voice low and certain. You will stay here, as long as necessary. No hospitals where records could leak. No public paper trail. Sherwoo will never get near you again. I can't impose on you like this. You're not imposing. His dark eyes held hers. You are Terrence's family. That makes you my responsibility, not a burden. A responsibility I'm choosing to accept. What are you going to do to him? She whispered. Nothing that will bring the police to your door, he said carefully. But I promise you this. Kong Sherwoo will understand that threatening you was the biggest mistake of his life. 2 hours later, Thelma lay in a guest bedroom larger than her entire apartment, finally beginning to feel the sedative pull her toward sleep. Down the hall, she could hear Terrence's voice, low and angry, talking with Jun Sang. In his study, Jun Sang stood by the window, phone in hand, making 3 calls in rapid succession. Each conversation was brief, coded, precise. When he finished, he stared out at the city, his reflection ghostly in the glass. No one threatens a lock under my roof, he said to the empty room. No one. And somewhere across the city, Kong Sherwoo slept peacefully in his apartment, unaware that his world was about to collapse. If you believe people like Sherwoo deserve consequences, drop a comment saying justice for Thelma and subscribe. We're just getting started, and toxic manipulators hate when their victims find protection. Don't let this story disappear. Be part of the community that stands against abuse. Morning light filtered through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Jun Sang's penthouse, painting Seoul in shades of gold and amber. Thelma woke disoriented, her body heavy from the sedative, her mind taking several seconds to remember where she was and why. Then it all came crashing back. She found Terrence asleep on the sofa outside her room, still in yesterday's clothes, positioned like a guard dog. The sight made her chest ache. He'd refused to leave, even when Jun Sang had offered him a bedroom. In the main living area, Junseng sat at a glass table with 3 of his men, laptops open, files spread across the surface. He looked up when she entered, his expression softening slightly. "Coffee," he offered. She nodded, and he gestured to the kitchen where a fresh pot waited. As she poured herself a cup, she heard fragments of conversation, Korean mixed with English, technical terms, names she didn't recognize. Surveillance from his building shows 3 women in the past 2 years. Restraining order filed and then mysteriously dropped. Connections to the Jung faction, money laundering through his company. Junseng's voice cut through, cold and precise. "I want everything. Every transaction. Every relationship. Every skeleton in his pristine closet. If Kong Sherwoo jaywalked 5 years ago, I want to know about it." One of the men looked up from his laptop. "Boss, we found something." 2 of his ex-girlfriends. One had a fall down the stairs that broke her arm. Another ended up in the hospital with what was reported as food poisoning, but the medical record suggests something more deliberate. Thelma's hand trembled, coffee sloshing in her cup. Junseng noticed immediately. "Take a break," he told his team. They filed out silently, leaving Junseng and Thelma alone. She sat across from him, staring at the files. There were others. "It appears so." He closed the laptop gently. "Thelma, I need you to tell me everything. Even the small things. Especially the small things." She wrapped her hands around the warm cup, needing something to anchor her. "I thought I was being paranoid," she began quietly. "He started checking my phone about 6 months ago. Said it was because he cared, because he wanted to make sure I was safe. Then it was my location. He needed to know where I was at all times. For my protection, he said." Junseng listened, his dark eyes never leaving her face. "He chose my clothes for important events. Criticized my friends until I stopped seeing them. Told me my job wasn't impressive enough for his business circles, so I should quit after we got married." Her voice cracked. "I told myself he was just traditional, that he wanted to take care of me. But it wasn't care, was it?" "No," Junseng said quietly. "It was control." "How did I miss it?" Tears spilled down her cheeks. "I work in social media for a nonprofit that helps abuse survivors. I see the signs every day, and I still don't." His voice was firm but kind. "Manipulation works because it's gradual. He didn't show you the monster on day 1. He showed you the prince, and by the time the mask slipped, you were already invested. That's not your failure. That's his strategy." The elevator chimed, and Terrence walked in, having finally woken. His eyes were bloodshot, his jaw clenched. "I want to go to his apartment." "No," Junseng said immediately. "You don't understand." "I understand perfectly." Junseng stood, facing Terrence. "If you go, one of 2 things happens. Either you kill him and you go to prison, or he's connected to people more dangerous than we thought and they kill you. Either way, Thelma loses her brother. Is that what you want?" "I want him to pay." Terrence's voice broke. "She's my baby sister. I raised her. I was supposed to protect her, and I let a monster into her life." "You didn't let him anywhere," Thelma said, standing. "I chose him, and you warned me. You said something felt wrong about him, and I didn't listen. This isn't on you." Terrence pulled her into his arms, careful of her ribs, and she felt his body shake with silent sobs. "I should have done more." "You're doing it now," she whispered. "You're here. That's what matters." Junseng's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, and something dangerous flickered across his face. "Excuse me." He stepped into his office, speaking in rapid Korean. Thelma caught only fragments, but the tone was clear. Something had happened. 5 minutes later, one of Junseng's men entered the penthouse carrying a large bouquet of white lilies. Thelma's blood turned to ice. "These were delivered to Miss Locke's apartment building an hour ago," the man said, holding out a small white card. Junseng read it, his expression turning to granite. He handed it to Terrence, whose face went pale with rage. "What does it say?" Thelma asked, though part of her didn't want to know. Terrence's voice shook as he read, "You can run. But you are still mine." The room fell silent. Then Terrence exploded, throwing the card across the room. "That's it. I'm ending this now." "You're not going anywhere," Junseng commanded. He turned to his man. Move Miss Locke's belongings to the secure suite on the fortified floor. Double the security on this building. I want eyes on Kong Sherwoo 24/7. Where he goes, who he sees, what he eats. Everything. Yes, boss. After the man left, Jun Sang looked at Thelma. You're staying on a higher floor. More secure. Biometric access only. He knows where I was living, she said numbly. How did he? He's been tracking you longer than you realized, Jun Sang said. But he made a mistake sending those flowers. Now I know he's still hunting. And that means I hunt him first. That evening, Thelma sat in her new suite. More luxurious, more isolated, more protected. Through the slightly open door, she heard Jun Sang on the phone in the hallway, his voice low and lethal. I don't care what it costs. I want Kong Sherwoo isolated. His business partners, his social circles, his reputation. I want it all dismantled piece by piece. And I want him to know it's coming, but not from where. A pause. No physical harm. Not yet. I want him afraid first. I want him to understand what it feels like to have your world collapse and not know who to trust. Thelma should have been frightened by the cold calculation in his voice, the ruthless precision with which he planned Sherwoo's destruction. But instead, for the first time in months, she felt something unexpected, protected, safe, believed. Someone with real power was finally on her side. And Kong Sherwoo had no idea what was coming. 3 days passed in Jun Sang's penthouse, and Thelma Locke began to remember who she was before Kong Sherwoo tried to erase her. It started small. She woke without panic. She ate breakfast without nausea. She walked to the windows and looked at Seoul without feeling like the city itself was hunting her. On the 4th morning, she found Jun Sang in his study, reviewing reports. He looked up when she knocked softly on the doorframe. Can I ask you something? She said. Always. She stepped inside, closing the door behind her. Why are you doing this? Really? I know I'm Terrence's sister, but this, she gestured around, this is more than obligation. Jun Sang set down his pen, considering his words carefully. When I was younger, I had a sister, younger than you. She trusted someone she shouldn't have, and I was too focused on building power, on expanding territory, to notice until it was too late. Thelma's breath caught. What happened? She survived, barely, but she was never the same. His dark eyes met hers. I swore I would never ignore that kind of danger again. Never dismiss someone's fear as overreaction. Never let someone suffer because I was too important to pay attention. I'm sorry, Thelma whispered. Don't be. Just promise me you'll never apologize for surviving. He stood, moving to the window. You're getting stronger. I can see it. That's what matters. She joined him at the glass, looking out at the city. He's not going to stop, is he? No, Jun Sang said honestly. Men like Sherwoo don't accept loss. They escalate. He was right. That afternoon, Jun Sang's phone erupted with alerts. His head of security entered the study, face grim. Sir, Kong Sherwoo was spotted in Songbuk-dong, asking questions of the neighborhood where Terrence grew up. He's looking for information about Miss Locke's background. Terrence, who had been in the room, shot to his feet. He's going after my neighborhood? Where people know us. It gets worse, the security chief continued. He left a message with Mrs. Kim at the corner store. Said to tell Terrence that what belongs to him needs to come home. Terrence's fist slammed into the wall. I'm done waiting. There's more, the chief said quietly. Our IT team detected an attempted breach of Onyx Tower's security system an hour ago. Sophisticated, but not sophisticated enough. The digital signature traces back to a hacker Sherwoo has used before. Jun Sang's expression turned to ice. He's trying to find her location. He won't get it, the chief assured. Our systems are. I don't care how secure we are. Jun Sang's voice was deadly calm. The fact that he tried means he's desperate. Desperate men are dangerous. He looked at his security chief, set up a meeting. Tell Kong Sherwoo that Lee Jun Sang wants to discuss a business proposition. Neutral location. Tonight. Boss, that's, Terrence started. Not negotiable. Then I'm coming with you. No. Jun Sang's tone left no room for argument. If you're there, you'll kill him. And I need him alive long enough to understand exactly how thoroughly he's lost. Thelma appeared in the doorway, having heard everything. June sang, please. Don't hurt him. I don't want violence on my conscience. He turned to her, his expression softening. I won't lay a hand on him. I promise you that. But I will make sure he never hurts anyone again. The meeting took place in a private room at an upscale restaurant in Gangnam, neutral territory, public enough to prevent violence, private enough for honest conversation. Kang Sherwoo arrived in a tailored suit, confidence radiating from every pore. He was handsome in a polished way, with styled hair and an expensive watch that caught the light. He sat across from June Sang with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Mr. Lee, Sherwoo said smoothly, I am honored. Though I admit I'm curious why someone of your reputation wants to meet with me. June Sang slid a manila folder across the table. Open it. Sherwoo's smile faltered as he flipped through the contents. His face drained of color with each page. Bank records showing money laundering. Photos of him meeting with members of a rival organization. Medical records from his ex-girlfriends. Text messages to Thelma, time-stamped and archived. Security footage from her apartment building. Where did you? Sherwoo's voice cracked. I have resources you can't imagine, June Sang said quietly. And I've spent the last 4 days learning everything about you. Your business is a front for the Jung faction. Your company is drowning in debt. Your reputation is built on lies. And you have a pattern of hurting women who dare to have opinions. Sherwoo tried to recover his composure. Thelma is my fiancée. What happens between us is private. She's not your anything anymore. June Sang's voice dropped to something lethal. And what happens next is very simple. You have two choices. He leaned forward and Sherwoo instinctively leaned back. Option 1, you disappear. You leave Seoul. You never contact Thelma again. You never mention her name. You don't look for her, don't ask about her, don't even think about her. In return, I keep this information private. Your business partners never learn about your Jung faction connections. Your family never sees these medical records. Your reputation stays intact. And option 2? Sherwoo's voice was barely above a whisper. I release everything. Your business collapses. The Jung faction learns you've been compromised and handles you their way. The families of your ex-girlfriends get copies of these files. And you spend the rest of your very short life looking over your shoulder, wondering when someone will come for what you owe. Sherwoo's hands trembled. You can't. I already have. June Sang slid a second folder across. These documents are scheduled to be delivered to 12 different people tomorrow morning, unless I cancel the order. Your move, Mr. Kong. The silence stretched, thick with tension. Sherwoo's carefully constructed facade crumbled piece by piece. What about Thelma? I want to speak with her. To explain. No. June Sang's tone was final. You'll never see her again. You'll never know where she is or what she's doing. She's done being afraid of you. Sherwoo tried one last time to assert dominance, straightening his shoulders. You think you can control me? You don't know who I know exactly who you are, June Sang interrupted. A coward who threatens women because you can't handle real power. And now you've learned what happens when you threaten someone under my protection. The meeting ended with Sherwoo signing a legal document, coerced but binding, agreeing to leave Seoul within 72 hours. June Sang returned to the penthouse near midnight, exhausted in a way that had nothing to do with physical tiredness. Confronting evil without destroying it required more control than violence ever did. Thelma was awake, sitting in the living room with tea. She looked up when he entered, reading his face. Is it over? She asked quietly. It's over. He's leaving Seoul. He won't bother you again. She set down her cup and crossed the room, stopping in front of him. For a moment, she just looked at him, this dangerous man who had chosen protection over destruction because she'd asked him to. Thank you, she whispered, for everything, for believing me, for protecting Terrence, for letting me feel safe again. June Sang felt something shift in his chest, something he hadn't felt in years. Not attraction, but something deeper. Purpose. Redemption. You don't need to thank me, he said. You survived. That took more strength than anything I did. She smiled, the first real smile he'd seen from her. Maybe, but I couldn't have done it alone. And in that moment, Jun Sang understood that sometimes saving someone else saves you right back. The call came at 4:47 a.m. on the 6th day. Jun Sang answered on the first ring, his voice alert despite the hour. "Talk to me." "Sir, we have situation." His head of security's voice was calm but urgent. "Kong Shiwu just arrived at Onyx Tower. He's in the lobby demanding to see Miss Locke. He's not well, sir. Erratic. Desperate." Jun Sang was already moving, pulling on clothes. "Hold him there. Don't let him leave, but don't touch him. I'm coming down." "What's happening?" Thelma appeared in her doorway, Terrence already behind her. "Sherwoo's here," Jun Sang said simply. "Stay on this floor. Lock the door. Don't come down no matter what you hear." Terrence moved to follow. "I'm coming with you." "No. I need you here protecting your sister." "That's an order." 5 minutes later, Jun Sang stepped off the elevator into the marble lobby. Sherwoo stood in the center, flanked by 2 of Jun Sang's security team. He looked nothing like the polished man from their meeting. His suit was wrinkled, his hair disheveled, his eyes wild with something between rage and panic. "Where is she?" Sherwoo's voice cracked. "I know she's here. I know you're hiding her." "Thelma!" He shouted toward the elevators. "Thelma, baby, please. Just talk to me. I can explain everything." "Mr. Kong." Jun Sang's voice was ice. "You were supposed to be out of Seoul." "I'm not leaving without her." Sherwoo took a step forward, and security moved instantly to block him. "She belongs with me. We're getting married. You can't just take her." "I didn't take anyone," Jun Sang said quietly. "She ran from you. There's a difference." "Because you poisoned her against me." Sherwoo's desperation turned to fury. "You filled her head with lies. She loved me before you." "She was terrified of you," Jun Sang corrected. "And now, thanks to your little performance, we have everything on camera." He gestured to the security cameras positioned throughout the lobby. "You violating your agreement. You harassing her. You proving exactly what kind of man you are." Sherwoo's face went pale. "You can't." "I already did." Jun Sang pulled out his phone, showing him the screen. "These videos are being sent to your former business partners, your family, and the police as we speak, along with all the evidence we discussed. You had one chance to walk away quietly, and you chose this." "No, no, no!" Sherwoo's legs gave out, and he sank to his knees. "Please, I'll lose everything. My company, my reputation, everything." "You should have thought about that before you threatened to kill an innocent woman." Jun Sang's voice held no sympathy. "Security, escort Mr. Kong out. The police are on their way to ask him some questions about his previous relationships." As security lifted Sherwoo to his feet, he tried one last time. "Thelma, I love you. Please." Jun Sang stepped closer, lowering his voice so only Sherwoo could hear. "Love doesn't threaten. Love doesn't control. Love doesn't make someone believe they're not worth protecting. What you felt for her wasn't love. It was ownership. And it's over." When Jun Sang returned to the penthouse, he found Thelma and Terrence on the sofa, her head on her brother's shoulder. They'd been listening to the lobby audio through the security feed. Terrence looked up, his eyes red. "Thank you for not letting me go down there. I would have." "I know." Jun Sang poured himself water, his hands not quite steady. "That's why I needed you here." Thelma lifted her head. He sounded so desperate. Part of me almost felt. "Don't." Terrence's voice was firm but gentle. "Don't let him manipulate you even now. He's desperate because he lost control, not because he lost you." She nodded slowly, then looked at her brother. "Terrence, I need to say something. I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner. I'm sorry I ignored your warnings. I'm sorry I put you through." "Stop." Terrence turned to face her fully. "Thelma Locke, you listen to me. None of this is your fault. I should have pushed harder when my gut told me something was wrong. I should have been more present, more aware. You were protecting an entire organization. You had a job. And you're my sister. That comes first. Always." His voice broke. "I'm sorry for every moment you felt alone. For every red flag I missed. For not being there when he threatened you." Thelma threw her arms around him, and they held each other the way they had when they were children, when Terrence had been the only family she had left. "I forgive you," she whispered, "and you have to forgive yourself." June Sang moved to leave, to give them privacy, but Thelma's voice stopped him. "Don't go. Please. I need to say something, and I need you both to hear it." She stood, taking a deep breath. "I need to say the words out loud, the things he said to me, because keeping them silent gives them power." June Sang and Terrence exchanged glances, then sat, giving her their full attention. Thelma's voice shook, but held steady. "He said marrying me meant owning me. He said I needed to learn my place. He said I didn't have the right to question him or embarrass him." She wrapped her arms around herself. "He said if I ever tried to leave, he would make sure I disappeared. That no one would find me. That the police would protect him, not me, because I was nobody and he was somebody." Tears streamed down her face, but she kept going. "And the worst part? For a moment, I believed him. I believed I was nobody. I believed my life was negotiable. I believed that my safety was less important than his reputation." Terrence's hands clenched into fists, but he stayed silent, letting her finish. "But I'm not nobody," Thelma said, her voice growing stronger. "I'm Thelma Locke. I'm Terrence's sister. I'm someone who survived. And I refuse to let Sherwoo's words define me anymore." June Sang stood slowly, his dark eyes holding something raw and unguarded. "Thelma, when you said the police wouldn't protect you, that they'd protect him instead, something broke inside me." He moved to the window, staring out at the city. "My sister, Jiyoung, was 17 when a man twice her age convinced her he loved her. He controlled her, isolated her, hurt her in ways that didn't leave visible scars. When she finally went to the police, they dismissed her, said she was exaggerating, said she seemed fine, said he was a respectable businessman and she was just a dramatic teenager." His voice dropped to barely a whisper. "By the time I realized what was happening, she'd tried to end her life. She survived, but she was never the same. She doesn't speak anymore, doesn't trust anyone, lives in a facility where people make sure she eats and sleeps and exists." Thelma's hand went to her mouth. June Sang. "I failed her," he said simply. I was building an empire while she was drowning. I was so focused on power that I missed the one person who actually needed it." He turned to face them. "When I found you on that rooftop, it was like the universe giving me a second chance. A chance to do what I couldn't do for Jiyoung. To prove that power means nothing if you don't use it to protect people who can't protect themselves." The room fell silent except for the quiet sound of Thelma crying. "You didn't fail her," she finally said. "The system failed her. That man failed her. But you're here now, making sure other women don't face the same thing. That's not failure. That's redemption." 3 days later, as dawn painted Seoul in shades of pink and gold, Thelma stood on the rooftop terrace where this had all begun. But she wasn't the same woman who had arrived here shattered and afraid. June Sang found her there watching the sunrise. He stood beside her quietly. "I'm going to get my own apartment," she said. "Start over. Maybe go back to school, get my master's degree. Build a life that's actually mine." "Good," June Sang said. "But take your time. And if you need anything, I know where to find you." She smiled at him. "Thank you, June Sang, for everything, for believing me, for protecting me, for showing me that safety is possible." He turned to face her fully, his expression serious. "Thelma Locke, hear me clearly. You are free. Not owned. Not controlled. Not defined by what happened to you. Free." The word settled around her like a blessing. Free. She took a deep breath of morning air and felt something she hadn't felt in months. Hope. As she walked back inside to begin her new life, June Sang remained on the rooftop watching the sunrise. Sometimes he thought, the people we save us back. If this story touched you, if you believe every woman deserves protection and freedom, hit subscribe to Ebony and Pearl Stories and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Drop a comment telling us what spoke to you most. We're building a community where survivors are believed, abusers face consequences, and hope always wins. Don't let the algorithm hide stories like this. Be part of the movement. People like Sherwoo hate when survivors find their voice. Prove him wrong. Subscribe now.